Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew.
And my name is Jeremy.
And you're listening to Culips. Hey there, everyone. This is a catchword episode. And if you're not familiar with catchword, it is the series where we teach you English vocabulary that is very useful or interesting or good to know. And we explain it and give you examples of how to use it. Today, we are going to explore and learn about two expressions that are related to understanding. And I know that's a kind of vague introduction, but you'll be able to see the full picture, get the picture here in just a moment. And here to help me teach these expressions today is my co-host, Jeremy. Jeremy, hey.
Hello, everyone. So today we are going to learn about two expressions that are related to understanding, meaning if there is some difficult topic or difficult information, and if you understand that thing, then you can use these expressions in that situation.
Right on. So we'll get to those two expressions in just a moment. But before we get started, everyone, remember that there is a study guide for this episode. You can download it from culips.com and follow along as you listen to us here today. It's a great way to study with us, and it's available on culips.com. So check it out. All right, Jeremy, what's the first expression we got lined up for everyone?
The first expression for today is get the picture. Get the picture.
Get the picture. Get the picture. Okay. So what in the heck does this mean? Get the picture.
Well, I imagine this expression being used after a long explanation. So, for example, if I am explaining some difficult math concept to you, and you are very bad at math,
True,
example,
it is true.
It's true, okay. After the long explanation, blah, 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 I say a long explanation, I can say, get the picture? Do you get the picture, Andrew? And you might be like, no.
I think, get the picture, to reduce it to a very simple definition, means to understand. To understand. And the way that I conceptualize this expression in my head is when somebody is explaining something to you, describing something to you, you're kind of making a mental image, right? The details of that situation, of that story, are all being compiled in your head to create a picture in your head that allows you to see the situation clearly. So the person who is explaining this situation, right, is using their words, is using maybe diagrams on a whiteboard. They're communicating information that they can understand clearly. They can see clearly in their head, and they are trying to transmit that information so that the receiver can also, compose this image in their own head as well and see the picture clearly.
So if I see something in my head and I explain it to you very clearly, then you will see the same picture in your head. The same picture that I am seeing in my head. So I give you the picture, therefore you get the picture. So when we explain things, we are always trying to pass information or give information to other people. So we use get the picture to mean basically understand. Now, it isn't super commonly used like the word understand, but it is quite common.
Yeah, I think if our listeners keep their ears open while they're watching YouTube or Netflix, then they will be able to hear this expression quite frequently. You're not you're not wrong. It's not one that I use every day, but it is common enough that I think it's important to know. And it is a little bit strange, right? Get the picture means understand.
Yeah, who sent me a picture? I didn't get any mail today. What is going on?
So it's difficult in that sense. And I think we can really clear things up for everyone by listening to some examples. So why don't we take a listen to an example conversation right now? What's that noise?
It's my upstairs neighbor. She must be working out again.
Wow, she sure is loud.
I know. I told her that when she works out, it causes a lot of noise in my apartment, but I guess she just doesn't get the picture.
So in this example, we heard two friends talking about a noisy upstairs neighbor. And even though this neighbor was told many times that when she works out, it's really loud in the downstairs apartment, she still does it anyways. She just doesn't understand that she is causing an inconvenience to her downstairs neighbor. She just doesn't get the picture. She doesn't understand.
So she's probably doing jump rope or making some loud noises with her feet in this situation.
Burpees.
And yeah. And honestly, in this dialogue, I could have said, but I guess she just doesn't understand. The meaning is the same, but when we use this expression, she doesn't get the picture, it's sort of emphasizing that the message that I want to send, the image in my head, has not made it across to her head. So it's used to sort of emphasize the fact that she just doesn't get it. She just doesn't understand.
And here I think the tone is a little bit resentful. It's like she's being a jerk. She knows, she's been told that her exercising causes a problem, but she just doesn't understand this situation. And so because of that, she's a bit of a jerk. She doesn't get the picture, right?
Yeah. The speaker using this expression is usually a little bit angry or annoyed, right?
Yeah. It's like, why don't you understand? It's so obvious. Why don't just get the picture?
Get the picture.
Come on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the nuance that's embedded in this expression.
Annoyance,
Yeah.
sort of. So let's look at another example.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey, dude, what's new these days?
Nothing much, man.
Are you still looking for a job?
Yeah, it's stressful. You know, I spend every day searching for new job listings, applying for work, writing cover letters. I could go on, but I'm sure you get the picture.
Yeah, man. Believe me, I know what you're going through. Just keep at it and you'll land something soon. In this dialogue, two friends are talking about job searching. One friend says, I could go on, but I'm sure you get the picture. So after explaining the process of looking for jobs and applying for jobs, he knows that no further explanation is needed because his friend probably already fully understands the process of looking for jobs. So he says, but I'm sure you get the picture. So the mental image has already been delivered, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is another way that English speakers use this expression. It's to like sort of cut through a long explanation when both speakers obviously know about all of the details of something, like searching for a job. This is something that every adult goes through. So we don't need to talk about all the details of the process, all of the stress, all of the worry, right? Because both guys in this conversation already know about this. So we could say, I'm sure you get the picture. I'm sure you understand. I'm just going to cut things short and save us some time. And in the last line of that conversation, we heard, you'll land something soon. You'll land something soon. I'm sure you'll land something soon keep at it. And that's a reference to the expression to land a job, to land a job. And that just means to get a job. So if you land a job, you were successful in your job search and you got a job. All right, let's move on to our second expression for today, which is if you get my drift. If you get my drift, if you get my drift. Drift is spelt D-R-I-F-T, drift.
Drift. We also often say if you catch my drift.
Yeah, both of them are totally fine to use. If you catch my drift or if you get my drift. In this expression, drift, Jeremy, what does it mean, drift?
I mean, drift isn't a super common word, but for example, there is something called driftwood, which is wood that has floated around on the ocean and eventually made its way into shore. So to me, drift sounds like something that was pushed in a certain direction.
Yes.
In this case, by wind. But when we say this, if you get my drift or if you catch my drift, I think what we're really saying is if you understand where I am going with what I'm saying, what my intention is with what I'm saying here. Do you understand my intention? Do you catch my drift? I think these are essentially the same meaning, but we usually don't say, do you understand my intention?
Right. So here we could think of the drift then as being the general message that you want to communicate without having to say all of the details. And now we use this expression a lot when we're talking about something that's like rude or controversial or taboo. Yeah. And it might be a little bit
inappropriate.
Yeah, to spell out all of the details. So we want to skip the details, but like, you know what I mean. I know what I mean. You catch my drift, right? We talk like this. So
it's kind of a way of saying, I don't need to say any more for you to understand, right? It's kind of saying, can I just stop here and not say any more? You get it, right?
Right. We have the expression wink, wink, nudge, nudge, which is kind of,
yes.
kind of like you can imagine two friends standing beside each other and you're kind of like, hey, we know what we're talking about, but we just can't say it directly because it's rude.
Yeah, or other people might hear us and think that, oh, well, those two people, what are they talking about? Right.
So scandalous. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So let's have a listen to our first dialogue.
Yeah, let's do it. And I think our listeners will understand the meaning of this expression clearly after listening to it.
Did you see Paul? He's wearing a brand new suit and he's been using a new laptop.
Yeah, I know. He's not rich, but he sure acts like he is, if you get my drift.
Yeah, I hope he's not getting into too much debt or anything.
Yeah, me neither. All right, so in this example, we heard two friends talk about a guy named Paul who is dressing really flashy and using new technology, and so has obviously been spending a lot of money these days. But the two guys talking know that Paul is not a rich guy, and they're worried about him. We hear the line, he's not rich, but he sure acts like he is, if you get my drift. So here, if you get my drift, the implied meaning behind this is that Paul has maybe been using his credit card too much. He's been spending money that he doesn't really have. And so because of this, the friends are concerned that he's maybe going into debt to keep up looking like he's rich.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't want to say that outright or out loud. You don't want people to hear you saying, oh, Paul, he thinks that he is rich and he is using his credit card. And sometimes talking about credit card debt can be a sort of taboo subject. It's something that's private. So in this dialogue, Paul is a friend of the two speakers. So they are trying to be careful with what they say about him.
Right. If they say directly, well, Paul is using his credit card way too much these days, we are worried. It's just something we can't say in English. It's too uncomfortable to talk about finances directly like this. So this is exactly why we had used this expression, if you get my drift. All right, let's listen to our final conversation example for this episode. I heard Uncle Hank got fired again.
Yeah, well, he dropped out of rehab again recently, so he probably wasn't exactly sober, if you catch my drift.
I feel so bad for the guy. He's a good dude, but he just can't seem to get it together.
In this example, two brothers are talking about their Uncle Hank, who got fired from his job. One of them says that he recently dropped out of rehab, meaning that previously he had a drug problem or a drug addiction. After that, he says, so he probably wasn't exactly sober, if you catch my drift. Sober is the state of not being on some sort of drug or substance. By following this expression with, if you catch my drift, the two brothers are sort of saying he was probably under the influence of a drug, and that's why he got fired, but we shouldn't say this out loud because he is our uncle, and we know we should try to protect him with our words. So let's just say, if you catch my drift.
Right. And also, maybe they're not 100% sure, right? If this uncle has a history of drug abuse and then he drops out of rehab and then he gets fired, maybe it's logical to think that he started using drugs again, but it might not be the case. So they're just speculating. It's another situation where we can use if you get my drift or if you catch my drift in.
Another useful expression mentioned in this dialogue is to get it together. Get it together. And this sort of means to get organized, to get his life organized, meaning to live properly or to live in a good way, to stop making mistakes and do what he should do, what he's supposed to do. So, for example, if Andrew was recording this podcast and his computer was falling apart, his battery died, his mic is having problems, his internet connection is bad, I could say, come on, Andrew, get it together.
Right, get it together. Or sometimes we say, get your act together, right? It just means behave properly, live an organized life without any problems. This uncle here that we heard in the conversation, he's a good guy, right? He's a kind guy, but his life is just ruined by drug use or abuse, and he can't get organized and live a normal life. He can't get it together. All right, well, everyone, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you for listening. We hope that you learned a lot with us here today. Remember that we have a study guide available for this episode on culips.com. And if you would like to check it out, you can download it on the website. Stay up to date with Culips by following us on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So just search for the Culips English podcast on your favorite social media service and you'll be able to find us. That wraps it up for us. We will be back soon with another brand new Culips episode and we'll talk to you then. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.